In this video, you'll be joining me, Joshua Bean, on a 4-day adventure through one of the natural wonders of the earth, the Grand Canyon. I'll camp my way from the north rim to the south with an oil painting easel and 17 panels to paint the scenery throughout the extraordinary thru hike. These panels will all fill the slots of a giant polyptich mother frame. Poly, meaning many, more than a triptych, which would be a presentation of 3 paintings. This frame nests a total of 18, 17 miniatures, and a 36 by 24 vertical centerpiece. The finished presentation was part of an annual art show that the Grand Canyon Conservancy puts together called the Celebration of Art. A celebration indeed, as the show has brought some of the nation's top landscape painters together with passionate Grand Canyon art lovers and art collectors. Boom, win for all. And the honor it is to have participated in this great event every year since its inception, and 2018 being its decade anniversary, I was planning an epic adventure and a painting presentation to match it. For the adventure through the canyon, I wanted a variety of sizes and shapes to capture the wild and strange land. Also, I was going to be carrying all of these sizes in a backpack with an easel, camping gear, and food for 4 full days, so weight and the collection of sizes had to be considered. The whole idea was conceived in my sketch box, and I recommend every human carry one. Visual language is universal, and anyone can learn to read and speak it with some fluency by simply the practice of drawing what you see. In March, 6 months before the 10-hour trek from my home in Salida, Colorado, to one of the 7 wonders of the world, I was toiling away on this. Being the centerpiece of the presentation, it's of the enigmatic Cape Royale on the North Rim, sunrise. The reference photos I shot personally, and therefore inundate me with fond memories. On this very sunrise, painting soldiers Bill Kramer, Susie Heyer, Rosie Sandifer, and I rose well before the sun had any chance to light or warm the day, and drove the 45-minute drive to the overlook, hiked out to the point, and then fought back at 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts for a good 2 hours before a rare morning thunderstorm had us running for cover. There were at least 2 easel blowovers, countless near misses, a bone-chilling bite to the wind, but it was worth every second. This painting was born from the beautiful battle, and simply being alive to witness it all is a thing to humble the soul. A hardy bunch, no worse for the wear, we persevered and took our remarkably fragile treasures, along with some airborne debris entombed in the thicker areas of the paintings, and salvaged the blustery session. From the sketch box, it's down to the woodshop. Just like the art studio, this is a very creative space for me. This frame was the biggest and most complicated of anything I'd made yet. Inside the mother frame, the 17 miniature paintings, as well as the centerpiece, all have subframes. They all require perfect measurements so that they fit together with no gaps. The mother frame has a custom mount on the bottom rail for a bronze plaque that will have the title, year, and my name on it, adding an extra level of provenance and professionalism. The painting process is somewhat complex in that the layering allow a certain amount of antiquing to take place, and then a gold fillet is painted on surrounding each painting slot. Being oil paintings, they wouldn't even be dry when the whole thing was hung for the opening of the show, so custom carriers had to also be constructed to get them through and out safely. Having accomplished a few milestones of this thing, all was coming together nicely. I now still had the actual thru-hike adventure ahead, and there were still a few small hurdles left. I needed to purchase my backcountry permits, and that had to be in person. I wanted to be there the minute they opened in case there was a line or a lottery-based process. Getting a late start out of town, I had to drive most of the night, but caught a little rest near Kayenta, woke up, charged on, and got to the permit office with 10 minutes to spare. No line, and I got my primitive camping permits without a hitch. The next day, I'd take the shuttle service that takes people via van over to the North Rim, a 4-hour endeavor starting at 8 a.m., and I would begin hiking the 6 miles from the North Rim to Cottonwood Campground at approximately noon. Works for me, although I prefer to leave a lot earlier. The show is put on by the Preservation and Education Organization working alongside the National Park Service called the Grand Canyon Conservancy. With wonderful futuristic vision, they started the celebration of art in 2008 in order to raise funds for a permanent venue on the South Rim in Grand Canyon Village that would house the vast art collection acquired throughout the years. Gifts from Congress, estate donations, trade agreement between Park Service and the artist in residence, as well as various other means, the collection is quite stunning. This can someday be on view for all visitors to enjoy. Artists help see the canyon and bring awareness to the subtle visual poetry of light and form, micro to macro. So high fives to the GCC for the vision to have artists with a passion for painting on location come to this mind-blowing location and put brush to canvas. The second day was in great anticipation. Both Ribbon Falls, where I dropped and secured my backpack, and Upper Ribbon Falls, to which I snuck up with just my easel, water, gorp, and gold information gathered from Aaron Schuer, a friend and great painter that had done a similar rim-to-rim trip a couple years prior. He told me about the little secret squirrel spot hardly anyone knows about, and where to pick up the trail. Boom! What an epic little amphitheater. I can never get enough waterfalls. They are so varied and interesting, each representing the overflow from a constriction in the geology, a material more resistant to erosion, or more figuratively, the overcoming of difficulty. Then it was a view on the trail out, also a suggestion from Aaron. There's no place to paint it from though without cooking, he said. Wrong. This isn't my first rodeo. He was certainly right about the view though. Simply one of the nicest natural combinations of form, light, and scale. High fives to Aaron and the mother. Here I was trying to capture all of the world on a 6x6. This idea will be a 36x36 in the studio someday. The rest of the hike was with the slot canyon above Ribbon Falls falling directly off to the right. The actual Ribbon Falls, also a wonder of epic shapes, complementary colors, and my timing was perfect. There's a little bench of rock under a nice overhang in shade that is the most ideal spot to paint it from. The falls, being a very well-known feature, seen by hundreds of thousands each year, I felt pressure to paint its likeness well. With the especially fast-moving light in these kinds of tight canyon scenarios, I did a quick pre-sketch of the complicated patterns, and to dial in the composition. These outdoor time lapses are cool, if only to see the shadows move across the form. Afterwards, I hiked the little trail up behind the falls, filled my water bottles, and did another fun little esoteric piece. This one will be appreciated by those whom have also been right here. The light was getting long at this point, and I still had a 6+ mile hike all the way to Phantom Ranch to bed down for the night, but I had to squeeze in one more. I couldn't resist the scene looking south towards the ranch in the south rim, wide open before heading into the winding and steep canyon of the Bright Angel Creek. My headlamp came in handy, but I won't lie, it was a very long 6 miles. The light lasted about 4, and I was in pitch darkness for what seemed like forever. With dogs barking, there was no rest for the wary. Something about long descents. My calves were pretty much calling for mutiny, but they gave in when the blood started flowing. Not one awesome thing here is easy to get to. Opportunity was waiting where the Vishnu Schist meets the Tapeats Formation from the Clear Creek Trail, a spot I learned about from the one-of-a-kind Bob Delegowski. This view of the boats was my studio entry for the 2019 Celebration of Art. I could have painted any one of the views along the way, but I had FOMO for the penultimate top spot. I was wanting to dive into some deep blue morning atmosphere, and the spot delivered. The pre-sketches were important for me on this trip. In addition to aiding the mind into full gear painting, I was able to jot down notes and thoughts. This painting was all about the layered form as it recedes into space, so I started there and worked my way forward. This approach works well for this type of lighting. It is important to work efficiently, not hurriedly. Then it was all the way down and back up the Bright Angel Trail a bit to check out what Phantom Creek and its own little slot canyon looked like. Ended up painting a lot of trail paintings, but the trail was a lot of the beauty of the experience, so there are a few of them in the Polyptich. Then on a recommendation from a guide, I ventured up the slot to what was described as a decent little tumble. From the eyes of this artist, it was another exquisite arrangement. The sheer variety of shapes, sizes, and lies of the rock would be stunning without the falls, so even better to have a lighter value shape tie the composition of light and reflection together. Getting all art nerd on you. Soaking wet pants were welcome at this point. Same with the shirt. Air temperature in the sun was around 105. Right now, the afternoon light would be shaping up across the Silver Bridge on the river trail. If you saw my last video from the adventure down here in 2014, you'll know about this trail and the way it makes me think Lord of the Rings and cave trolls. From it, the cliffs right down to the river yield amazing river views. High fives to the universe for water. I mean... Just across the Silver Bridge, this little fellow will soon make a cameo. I walked up and down checking my favorite spots. This trail just has all the right stuff, and the light was phenomenal, but fleeting. I ended up settling on this bend in the trail, the Silver Bridge, and a nice braided Colorado River backdrop. Then I got a visit from that yearling bighorn sheep. It was quite nervous and wanted to pass, but was ultimately too unsure of me and its own safety and went back to find another route. I then just turned my easel and did a painting of the Black Bridge. Interesting story as to why there are 2 bridges and 2 trails down here. The Bright Angel, where I will be hiking up tomorrow, and the South Kaibab. I'll let you go down that rabbit hole. You couldn't make this stuff up. I slept well this night. Fun and games were over. It was all uphill from here. Down is optional, up is mandatory, so they say, and truer words were never spoken. About 4 miles of climbing from Phantom Ranch up the Bright Angel Trail gets you to the Devil's Corkscrew, a welcome chance to take a break and bust out the easel. High fives for this guy. No foot, no problem. So what's up with everything awesome somehow associated with the devil? Devil's Bridge, Devil's Backbone, Devil's Kitchen, Devil's Sink. Must have been dark times. From here, the trail follows the stunning Riparian Canyon up through the Tapete Sandstone. It's one natural rock garden after another with green, complementary colors dancing their way through the scenes. For the next piece, I found some shade next to a cliff, a dark foreground with light hitting the tops of the cottonwood trees and the majestic Zoroaster temple in the distance. From here, it was more wondrous, strange rock gardens and watercourses. This segment of the Bright Angel Trail, just north of the Indian Gardens campground, is maybe the highest concentration of incomparable earthen delight. Being a geology nerd and a painter, I really dig the collision of patterns in here. You've got the patterns of light and shadow describing the patterns of erosion. It's very fractal-like. Each square inch of land is either a watercourse or a divide, and it all comes clear with a bit of rain in this arid terrain. Once again, I secured my big pack and headed out to Plateau Point for some gorge views into the river corridor. Usually a high wind spot, I discovered another little bench under the caprock with both shade and shelter from the gales. It's a bit unnerving though, as there's a 1,000-foot drop inches to my right. Make a wrong move here and you'll be checking out of this magnificent incarnation. Then just one more on the way back to rest and relaxation. I only had 2 panels left with plans for both of them, so dawn was, once again, a slog. Just after first light, I was already at 3 Mile House. This is one of those artful pieces of architecture that you see around the park, the stuff that uses the natural resources from the area and integrates it beautifully into the construction. These are predominantly by one truly visionary architect, Mary Coulter, 1869 to 1958. From those times on, it seems artistry and architectural structure, arguably worldwide, is replaced by more economical and expedient means, trading pure function over craftsmanship and ingenuity. Hey everyone, it's Heartbreak Ridge. Yep, almost did it. For one, I'm a fan of beauty in form, either natural or man-made. The next piece would also integrate the 2 worlds with the Cole Brothers studio at the head of Bright Angel Trail in the background. This was a complicated scene with part trail, part stair-stepping Kaibab limestone, part gable ends of an iconic and historic structure, so a pre-sketch was happening. No sense in losing the steam now. I could smell the coffee and breakfast that I would soon be devouring. So with stomach protesting every autonomic resource left, I bring you the final push. The 17th painting in what is a collection of works depicting to my greatest ability one of the most spectacular through hikes in the known universe. Before I was ready to load them all into the mother frame, I needed to check for clarity, structure, lighting, and any damage that may have incurred. I try my best to finish the paintings completely out there, as going back into them is not my favorite thing. I got lucky, there was no damage whatsoever, and only a couple didn't quite get a pass and needed a little tinkering. The loading of them into the frame was a bit of an emotional experience for me, for just like the waterfalls, I had overcome this difficulty. It was an experience I was nervous about and I had been training for all summer after recovering from a knee injury in the spring. I was overwhelmed with joy when an anonymous donor bought the painting and then donated it to the GCC. This is how you get to view it now. High fives to that awesome person. And finally, here's the breakdown of all the paintings in the Polyptich frame. Huge thanks to the Grand Canyon Conservancy, their sponsors, and the tireless volunteers for all they do to make this happen. Also, huge thanks to the Park Service for welcoming the artist in and spreading the good word. The easel and lightweight equipment for painting on location is by prolificpainter.com. Go there to get inspiration, education, or equipment for this glorious way of passing the time here on this beautiful rock. Thank you for watching, and all of my being thanks the universe for making it so radical.